Battle Through the Firmament. Great World. Chapter 465. Through. Zhou Yuan and Zhu Mo stood together. The latter did not compete with the others for the outstanding performance of the students. In his heart, Zhou Yuan had already achieved his goal. His future achievements and potential would definitely not be inferior to these people. Yuan, let's go. You have also seen the strength of these students. When we return, you will have motivation. Zhu Mo said with a big belly. The students here could be said to be the most outstanding young men of the young generation in the entire star field. In the future, they might become the strongest of the generation. And these people would also be Zhou Yuan's opponents in the future. He nodded. Just as Zhou Yuan was about to leave with Zhu Mo, he seemed to have noticed Xiaoyan's gaze. A bright light flashed in his eyes, and his sharp eyes also looked at Xiaoyan. In an instant, they looked at each other. Long time no see. Looking at Xiaoyan, Zhou Yuan no longer had the shock he had when they first met. He smiled slightly, and his lips moved slightly. In profound crystal realm, he clearly knew the strength of Xiaoyan. The strength that Xiaoyan displayed after defeating Kang Feng. It seemed like Xiaoyan was even stronger than him. Long time no see. Looking at the distant Zhou Yuan, Xiaoyan also understood the former's lip reading. His eyes narrowed and Xiaoyan could not help but sigh in his heart. He did not expect that this fellow was still alive. Fortune played tricks on people, and the two of them met here once again. Recalling the first time he had met Zhou Yuan, the corner of Xiaoyan's mouth curled up into a smile. He had already thought it through. He guessed that Zhou Yuan's target was the Holy Art's heavenly monic fire-burning body. Due to some unknown factors, he had obtained it, and it had become one of his most powerful techniques. The seemingly wild and unruly Zhou Yuan now seemed to be much more restrained, but he was like a sharp sword. He had found a suitable scabbard and temporarily concealed its sharpness. When it was pulled out from the scabbard, the sharpness it displayed was enough to shock everyone. Zhou Yuan did not have the intention to go forward and talk to Xiaoyan. He seemed to have forgotten about the cooperation between the two of them back then. He merely cupped his hands towards Xiaoyan and gave him a deep look. After which, he followed Zhu Mo and left the mountain top and flew downwards. Who is that person? Wu Shaoqi asked curiously as she looked at Zhou Yuan's departing figure. She could clearly sense the ki of the former, which was different from the ki of an ordinary Monic Emperor. He's the same as me, a very strong guy who has just broken through to the Monic Emperor. Xiaoyan lowered his head and said in a soft voice. Nodding her head, Wu Shaoqi did not ask any more questions. Ripples flowed in her beautiful eyes, and the smile on her pretty face gradually disappeared. In its place was a look of worry. Xiaoyan, do you think the soul demon will really cause trouble again? Wu Shaoqi lowered her head slightly as if she was muttering to herself. Old man Jiang and the other two had mentioned it to her before. The soul demon was in chaos in the ancient era. That period of history could be said to be a tragic sight. The entire great world had fallen into an abyss of misery. Mountains and rivers were overturned, and the stars lost their luster. Xiaoyan was silent for a long time. Then, he let out a sigh and let out a long sigh. Since Yavmu has escaped, he won't hide anymore. Kang Feng's strength has already reached the half-step Emperor cultivation. After being controlled by Yavmu, he has reached the Emperor cultivation level. If he finds an opportunity to control other heavenly sovereign level experts, he will most likely have the strength to fight against a supreme saint. Xiaoyan's mouth twitched slightly as he continued. What's more, none of the 9 soul demon disciples have died. Most of them have been sealed. If these seals are removed and the 9 of them join forces, their strength might really bring chaos to the entire great world. Wu Shaoqi sighed lightly when she heard this. After a long time, she finally said leisurely, I am worried about grandfather. With his age, it is extremely difficult for him to advance his strength. If the soul demon is in chaos, with his strength, he will not be able to do anything. Wu Shaoqi's eyes gradually became determined as she spoke. A hint of solemnity also surged onto her pretty face. Therefore, I need to go to Mingyan Divine Domain and integrate Flame Lord's ability as soon as possible to increase my strength. Only then can I protect my grandfather and the academy. At the end of her words, Wu Shaoqi smiled slightly. Her black eyes blinked like the stars in the night sky. A gentle breeze blew over and lifted up her jet black hair. It was extremely gentle. Flame Lord has traveled the entire world and the main place is the Star Moon Spirit Domain. How can you be sure that there will be a legacy left by Flame Lord in the Mingyan Divine Domain? Looking at Wu Shaoqi's appearance, the trace of irritation in Xiaoyan's heart disappeared, and he asked softly. You still remember this jade pendant, right? Wu Shaoqi flipped her jade palm and took out a red jade pendant. On the jade pendant, a lifelike strange beast seemed to be roaring at the sky, looking very lifelike. Seeing Xiaoyan nod his head, Wu Shaoqi continued, I have asked 3 seniors about it. The beast on it is called Open-Minded, an ancient beast. It has the pure bloodline of the vermilion bird, and is one of the guardians of the Mingyan Divine Domain in the ancient times. Therefore, I believe that there might be something related to Flame Lord in the Mingyan Divine Domain. Enlightenment. Upon hearing this, Xiaoyan nodded his head and carefully looked at the strange beast on the jade pendant. The strange beast spread its wings and soared into the sky. Although it was only a carving, it was still full of boundless momentum. Xiao, do you know how to be enlightened? On the surface, he carefully looked at the jade pendant on Wu Shaoqi's hand. In his heart, Xiaoyan could not wait to speak. I know, that is one of the strongest purebred bloodlines of the vermilion bird. It is much purer than the bloodline of the little black bird in Forest Domain. The lazy voice of the Xiao was heard, but there was a trace of anger in the last sentence. Obviously, it still had the appearance of the 9-nether profound bird in its memory. How about the details? Xiaoyan's heart moved. His face involuntarily revealed a trace of joy. Although the vermilion bird isn't like the azure dragon, where there are countless descendants, there are still quite a few of them. Kai Ming, Ghost Chariot, Bai Fang, and Golden Crow are collectively known as the 4 great divine birds. They are the purest descendants of the vermilion bird, and their strength is also outrageously strong. That's all I know. The Xiao yawned and said lazily. 4 great divine birds. A strange expression appeared on Xiaoyan's face. The 4 ancient spirits really had more and more descendants. However, he had never heard of these 4 great divine birds. What's wrong? Wu Shaoqi asked curiously when she saw the uncertain expression on Xiaoyan's face. It's nothing. This jade pendant is really unusual. Xiaoyan smiled and shook his head. He then looked into the distance. After half a day, the so-called talent show had ended. Of course, there were some who were happy, some who were disappointed. Su Jiang, Yi Xuan, and Tang Hong had returned as well. The 2 of them returned to the central zone and asked around. They also knew the decision of the crowd. Mu Yuyang had joined the Green Lotus Sword sect. Lin Dao had joined the Lifeless Heavenly sect, and Zhu Tianhou had joined the Fire Spirit Palace as expected. The 3 sects were very famous in the Star Domain. Zhou Buyi and Zhou Exingyu had rejected all the invitations. As young master of the Zhou clan, with their cultivation resources, naturally, they didn't need to be bullied by any sect. Both of you should have your own thoughts and plans. This is good as well. Traveling around the great world will be beneficial to expanding your strength and horizons. Looking at Xiaoyan and Wu Shaoqi, Su Jiang smiled gently. There was also an unconcealed smile on his stern face. It was obvious that the Yunlo Academy had obtained immeasurable benefits this time. The 4 academies competition has finally come to an end. After returning to the academy, it doesn't matter if you want to stay in the academy and continue your cultivation or go out, it will be up to you. This competition can be considered as a graduation exam. Congratulations, you have all passed the exam. Su Jiang looked at the 5 people in front of him and said with a smile on his face. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.